What's going on, my friends? This is Dave Sharpe. Welcome to Wake Up Legendary, and we have a phenomenal guest this morning, Stacy La. So many of you know who she is. Without further ado, we're running a few minutes late. Help me welcome to the show, Stacy La. What's going on, Stacy?
Hey everyone, hey Dave.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging out in Orlando. I'm not in my usual spot. I look like I'm hiding in a basement somewhere. But at least the Wi-Fi connection is good, I think. And so that's really all that matters.
That's all we need, right?
That's right. That's right. You are in Quebec, Montreal,
Toronto, like just close
Toronto.
to Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's right. That's right. We were
Mhm.
talking about the last trip that my wife and I took up to
Yeah.
Toronto. Nice. So you are rocking. You are going to be speaking at our mastermind. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
excited to hang out with you. Are you excited to come down here to Florida?
I'm super excited. I can't wait. It's cold here now, so it'll be great.
Yeah. Hopefully it's
Mhm.
it's nice and not rainy. Then it's gonna be a nice fall season, nice winter season down here, and we're gonna have
Yeah.
fun. These masterminds are great. We do them at, for those of you who don't know, we do them at 15, 20,000 square foot mansions, and they're just a lot of fun. We're gonna have some awesome guests. Stacy, Brian Brewer, Andre, Sarah Ravel is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of our teammates there, a lot of our advisors there, and it's going to be a great time. So, have you thought at all about what you wanna train on, you wanna speak on?
Yeah, I think I have some. I mean, I more than think. I know what I want to talk about. It's pretty clear. It's kind of the basis of how I run my own business. That's really all that I can talk on is my
Right.
experience and what I've learned and what I know and how I operate. So I know exactly what I'm going to talk about, and I'm excited to share it. It's not really like one specific thing. It's kind of like just like my process, my system, and I'm excited to share it because I know a lot of people think things have to be complicated, but it doesn't. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can make your life and your business as simple as you want, and you can be profitable at the same time. So I'm excited to share that.
So take us back a little bit, just for people who don't know, who you are and how you started with all this. Just give us that nutshell version
Sure.
of where you came from.
Yeah, so I mean, I was like, how everyone kind of starts their journey. I was working a 9 to 5, sometimes more than a 9 to 5. I worked 12-hour shifts. I sometimes rotated from days and nights, and it was at a nuclear station. So my journey started because I also have a young daughter, and as a mom, it's really hard to work those long shifts and be away from your family, and you miss out on so much, and you miss out on like birthdays and holidays and everything because I mean you have to be at work because I mean you have to pay the bills, and I think everyone can relate to that. And then a few years ago, I started seeing different ways to make money online, and that's I know I started searching for that because I wanted to stay home, and the only way I knew to do that was to try to use the internet to make money in some way. I didn't really know how to do it, but I was starting on my journey to figure that out. Similar to Andre kind of said the same thing too. I started with drop shipping as well, which is much more complicated than I think a lot of people realize it is. It's much more expensive than a lot of people explain that it is, and it didn't really work the way I wanted it to, and it didn't provide the life that I really thought I wanted because I was still working so many hours. I was working my shift, like my 12-hour shifts, plus I'd come home and work, you know, hours on this, and I'd maybe get 2 hours sleep. So, I kind of struggled with that for a while, and eventually I was like, you know what, I don't have time to and I don't suggest anyone necessarily follows like what I do because this is my own story, so I'm just telling you like it is. But eventually I was like, I can't work 12-hour shifts and try to start a business at the same time. Like I'm killing myself. Like my health was like awful. I was exhausted. I was still trying to spend time with my daughter, and on 2 hours sleep is just awful. So I just decided to quit my job and go for it. Like I just decided to go all in. And I'm like, if I don't do this now, I'm gonna like kick myself later and wish that I did. So I did what, I don't necessarily suggest is I just decided to go for it. I trusted myself and I'm like, I'll figure it out. And my husband was super supportive too. And he's like, Stacey, just do it. Like we got this, we'll figure it out. So I kind of struggled along for a couple of years trying different things, like all kinds of different ways to make money online. And then December last year, I came across Legendary and affiliate marketing, and I knew what affiliate marketing was, but it was just kind of like the last thing I hadn't tried yet for whatever reason. And I think it was meant to be, because once I decided to kind of go all in with the 15-day challenge, I decided to go for it. I was like, what do I really have to lose at this point? I've tried everything else. I learned that, like I just kind of said before, running an online business doesn't have to be complicated. When you have like a process that works, like what they show like in the 15-day challenge, and with affiliate marketing in general, if you have a business that runs well like that, you can have like a great income and free time at the same time. So I mean, it's kind of all history now, since I started the 15-day challenge in December, and now we're what, 10, 11 months down the road. We're almost a year to when I started, and like my life is, it's completely changed. And it's been like a journey of learning, right? Because when you take any training course, you learn what you're supposed to do, but then it's your job after that to continue learning and building on that and perfecting that process, because it's up to you to make sure that you get what you want, and you need to always be like growing and learning, becoming a better person, especially when you're building your own business and trying to do that for yourself, because there's no boss that's gonna tell you, you know what, Stacy, you got to get up, you got to be here at this time, you need to do this for your business. That doesn't exist when you quit your job and you're running your own business. So you need to be the one that's on top of that. So maybe that was a little bit more than a nutshell, but that's kind of my story there.
I think it wasn't a word too long or a word too short. It was perfect. It's yours. And how does that feel to say all that and for that to be your story?
It feels amazing, because like I think a lot of people can even relate to this when you're going through it. So when you first decide to do something new, no matter what it is. In my case, it was starting this new online business idea. When you decide to do that, it's a big mental struggle, because you don't know if you're doing it right, right? You're following steps, but you don't have the proof that you are necessarily doing it right. You know it's possible because you see that it's working for other people, but you're just going through the beginning motion. So to go through 11 months almost of this and see that by following the steps that are set out for you and being, consistent and dedicated to that, that it can result in something amazing is such a great feeling, because a lot of people I talk to just don't believe that it can like work. Everyone uses that saying, like, will it work? And that's not really like, that concept is like a false belief. Like everything works. But what you need to do is be dedicated and consistent and work through it no matter what. Because if you don't go through the process, like from beginning to end, it will never ever work. It won't work. So to see that when you actually do follow something through and it results in exactly what you want and more is like an amazing feeling. It's great.
You have, I mean, you're with the skills that you've developed and obviously the hard work that you've put in. I mean, you're legitimately on your way to um, basically millionaire status. I mean, to building a millionaire business, to
Mm,
generating $1 million in your you know little
yeah.
solopreneur kind of, but
Hmm.
I mean, you have no employees, you have no
No.
office building that I know of, you have no,
No.
I mean, it's just it's such a unconventional business
Hmm.
model. You had no tools or equipment that you needed to buy like a restaurant, and that you're not going to be profitable for 2 or 3 years like so many brick and mortar business. I mean, how does that feel to know? I mean, you've already accomplished huge numbers, and I mean, both from your audience that you've built to also income that you've generated. I mean, how are you and your family taking all of that in?
it's it's kind of surreal, really, because we still live like we did before. Like we're not big on like flaunting and anything like that. We're very like conservative that way, because we just want to live a life where we can just be us. And I think like knowing that we can, like what you just said, like what is like we're about to achieve. I say we because I mean I'm in the front of the camera, but like my husband is definitely behind the scenes. So like if it wasn't for him, I swear I wouldn't be where I am today. He's my support system for sure. But I mean, knowing that you can accomplish that and what we're about to accomplish is such a great feeling, because we've always talked, like my husband's name is Craig. Craig and I have always dreamed of and knew what we were capable of, but we just didn't find the right path to get us there. And seeing that we're on that path, like we're well down that path, and we're able to achieve the things that we've always dreamed of is very kind of surreal. Because I know a lot of people kind of like, once they start making a lot of income, they change their lives and they're like buying expensive stuff, and sometimes they kind of lose track of like reality and things like that. But we really try to stay grounded and be realistic, because we know that like the work we put in now is, we're trying to build a foundation for our future, for ourselves and like our kids, and we want to make sure that it's there forever. Like, it's not really for us that we're doing it, it's for like our future generations of our family that we're hoping to build this for. So we're putting in the work now to really work hard and lay this out, and hopefully solidify something that maybe my daughter can take over one day, or at least learn from and create something of her own, using like the tools and using what she sees us doing every day. So it's it's a lot hasn't really changed in our day-to-day life. We still regular people. I mean, like, I get up every day, I'm in the same house, I drive the same car, I take my daughter to school, and the difference is I have so much more time to enjoy those things. And I didn't get to enjoy any of that before. Like, we actually just renovated our house as well, and working at my job, I never would have been able to afford that, ever, ever. Like, it's kind of like, I can't even put words to what it feels like. But having the time to enjoy these things is better than the money, in a way, because you could have all the money in the world, and if you don't have time to enjoy it, then what is the point, right? So
Yeah.
you need to find that balance between income and quality of life, and that's, I think, what we're doing right now.
So do you have any new, when you say I'm building something for my kids, I'm building something for future generations? I mean, I think a lot of times that is for me in the past, I've heard people say that and it sounded ambiguous. One of the things that my wife and I have begun to look at is like 15, 20 years down the road, what is the world going to look like? Where we
Mm-hmm.
live right now in Florida, is there a possibility that that could be, underwater,
Mm-hmm.
that hurricanes could be not category fours and fives, but sixes, sevens, and eights, and it's no longer even a safe place to live. We don't know that that's going to happen for sure. That maybe might be extreme thinking, but we've got a lot of uh, real estate rental properties, our primary homes there. So we're going in January and we're looking for some property in a different state somewhere. We're going to be looking for some homes in the mountains, to where we could potentially, go there, retire, go there if need be, or also set up a place for our children in the future, that is already established in case there's a need to move out of where we live right now. What have you and Craig began to think of? I mean, I know that you had mentioned turning the business over, and I kind of fantasize about that too with my kids. I have no idea, what
Yeah.
they're going to want to do, right?
Mhm.
But have any other things come up for you and Craig about what other ways you could create both generational wealth, but also, um, pass along something that is valuable to future generations? I mean, and I don't want to minimize just skills and values in information, but what other conversations have you had or have had in the past that are now more of a reality? Like, what are your goals now that you've started to accomplish some of the, as Maslow says in his hierarchy, right? Until you meet your basic needs, you can't move on to the next level to kind of focus on some of those higher level needs. Now that you've met and exceeded a lot of your kind of basic needs, that for so many of us were a struggle at one time, what are some of your bigger goals now? Like, what do you want to do in the next year or 5 years or 10 years that may or may not even be business related, but because of your success, you're now able to talk about or even plan?
So, I mean, it's funny that you're even saying what you said about potentially looking at like relocating and real estate and things like that, because I mean, for us, and what you just said kind of like hit the nail on the head, because I actually had this conversation with my husband just a couple weeks ago, and I said, like, now that we know how to generate income, because and we've not really perfected it, because you're always constantly learning, but when you do step one, which is having the ability to generate income when you need it, and like you said, fulfill your needs, that gives you the ability to then now grow the income, because generating it is one thing, but then if you really want to build something that is really valuable for years to come, you need to learn how to also grow the income that you're generating, because if you can only generate so much, right? So we've been thinking of like many different things that, well, maybe not many, but like at least a few key ones that we're looking at now that we have like this income that we can actually invest into things like real estate, and maybe not necessarily even living here in Canada all like forever, because I mean Canada is great, but I mean these last couple of years have really put things in perspective, and you need to sort of keep your eye on where the opportunities are and where you can take your income and apply it in the best place. So real estate is definitely one. Maybe not necessarily here in Canada, maybe in the States. And also my husband is very into, like, he really enjoys learning about like investing and different things as well. So having kind of a chunk of your income that you are willing to invest into something and just let it grow, or see what happens with it. Not a lot of people have that ability to do that. Like when you have a savings account, most people, your savings account is like for the rainy day emergency fund, and you don't touch it, right? You kind of leave it. But when you have the ability to create income when you need it, you can take a chunk of money that you can say, I'm gonna, maybe take a risk on this and put it into something that I'm not sure of, and it could turn into something else. So that's something that we were never able to talk about before. We never had those conversations before, because we barely had a savings account before. Like it didn't really exist. So like that has changed everything, and it gives you a peace of mind knowing that even if all of that doesn't work, if everything like fell to the ground, I still have the skills I know to do it again. I can start over anytime, and that's a great feeling. And we can do it all over, and we'll be good no matter what.
Yeah, and you've learned and developed all these skills in the last 11 months. I
Yeah,
mean, for
yeah.
those of you who are wondering, how long is it going to take me to develop skills and to enter into a new market or career and start? Here is a great example. And you see these day after day as we're interviewing people here on the show live 5 days a week. You can come on. Stacy's story is beyond inspirational, and it's like truly an example of what you can do if you're super focused and you take this and treat your business like a business and not like a hobby. But you see this every day, and we hear this over and over, Stacy, that people have started 3 months ago or 4 months ago. And maybe there's something that's magical and unique about Legendary. I don't know, because I'm not paying attention to what everybody else is doing. But we have a lot of people who in the 3, 4, 6, 9 month period have come in, gone through our training, and have taken those skills and truly built something that is not just a couple of dollars here or there. That's a significant income stream, significant windfall. But most importantly, what you talked about is the skills that you cannot take away. And that is also what I think so many of us underrate and undervalue, is the fact that even if you took everything away from me today, even if you took everything away from you, Stacy, today, you, and together with your partner, your husband, you know how to go and generate revenue. You know how to generate leads. Basically, you know how to generate leads, and you know how to generate sales. And quite frankly, as I was talking about in a decade in a day training for new blueprint students this morning, these are skills that you can actually take to any industry, promoting any product, and make it a success. And it's not, marketing always takes work. You have to find angles. You have to understand the psychology of who you're talking about. So there's both mechanics and dynamics to this process. But the truth is, I call these transferable skills, because Stacy, even if somebody said, whoever would be so powerful to come in and say, okay, you can never work on the internet ever again. You have to go and start an offline business, right? You could take the lead generation and marketing skills that you've learned and developed over the last 11 months, and you could be much more successful with that business than if you didn't have those skills. And thankfully, there's nobody that powerful yet who can tell you that you can't use the internet. So you have this power, you have these skills, you have these powerful platforms that, you know, even if you, and this happens all the time, like we lose a channel or something happens where, you know, we have to pivot or we have to, you know, something stops working as well and we have to go and start marketing on another platform, whatever. You have the timeless principles, the skills that it requires to generate leads, to first understand who your target customer is, speak that language that makes them feel understood, generate those leads, collect emails, build a list, and then pass them along to at the very minimum, if you weren't selling a coach course or a coaching program course or doing an event, pass them along to a product that you're an affiliate of and have a stream or multiple streams of income. That is so underrated.
It is.
I think people
Yeah.
just have this mindset of like get rich quick and
Yeah.
don't understand the long-term value of possessing these skills.
Absolutely. Like I could not agree more with that. And when I talk to people and their first questions are, you know, about money, like how much can you really make that much? I always have to stop and say like, okay, first, like it's definitely possible, but you're missing the big picture. Like those questions are very nearsighted because when you learn something like that, like what you just explained, and you literally have the ability to take that anywhere, like you just said, and generate revenue, like those skills are assets that are so much more valuable than the money because okay, yeah, sure, let's just say you just followed steps mindlessly without taking in what you're actually doing and you didn't learn, and here you go, like here's however much money, right? That money will be gone, and then what do you do? What do you do once, you know, that's gone? Like you don't have those, like those steps to take again. So I mean, the skills alone are much more valuable than any money that anyone can give you because then you can do it on your own. You don't have to wait with your hands out for somebody to put money in there, like paying your bills. Like you can do that for yourself. And it's a forever thing, right? So it's something that you can always do continually. So I try to, you know, put that into perspective for people when they're just so focused on, you know, how quickly I can make the money, because it's not about that. It should never be about that. And if that's what your main focus is, you most likely won't succeed either because you're not focusing on the right thing when you're going through the journey of starting your business. Because when you're starting a business, it should never be how much money am I making today. It should always be how much more am I improving my business? What's additional things that I learned today that I could, you know, put towards the business later to improve it? What other opportunities have I looked for today that I can maybe get into later? And how am I continually improving my business and myself along the way? Because when you focus on those things, you will generate income naturally without even really focusing on it, because it will come to you when you're focused on that and actually genuinely helping people solve their problem, because that's really the heart of any business, solving a problem and helping people do that. Like that is when like you will succeed, and it really doesn't have anything to do with focusing on the money. No, I can't hear you, Dave.
Sorry. You can see my
Okay.
screen though, right?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
So what you said is all just so perfect, and it's I hope everybody, we said that in a way that you were able to really hear it, because it's just such an important part of this whole process. And I know it feels like, what the hell are you talking about? Don't focus on the money. And we're not particularly saying just do things mindlessly, even if they don't make money. Surely pivot if what you're doing isn't working. But what we're saying is focus on adding value, on understanding the needs and the pain points of your customer, so when they hear you speak, they can say, wow, this person really understands me. And once you get that language down, you know, generating leads, building an audience, converting sales becomes much easier, because people can sniff and smell whether you're being desperate and just trying to sell them something, versus whether you're really, you know, whether you really understand them. I want to go back to something that we were touching on a second ago, was this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the fact that where most of us are is just in these kind of first two categories, of life, and we never get out of them, which is just trying to meet our physiological and our safety needs. And kind of what the concept of this which this guy Abraham Maslow was definitely somebody who kind of learned a lot, borrowed a lot from a lot of psychology legends like Sigmund Freud and Otto Rank and Carl Rogers, and I could go into a whole. I'm going to be releasing a really in-depth training on a lot of these concepts here really soon. But what I want to talk to you guys just briefly about that I think will resonate with a lot of you is that you know a lot of us are just trying to meet these basic needs, and his concept, his philosophy is like you can't really move on to creating space and focusing on some of these other needs until you meet the need below it. So like we can't really focus on love and belonging, like friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection, because we're always so busy trying to meet our safety needs, like our employment, our resources, you know what I mean? Like our money. We're trying to, like, what happens in this modern society is everybody's so focused on physiological and safety needs that, the divorce rate is well over 50%. Kids are growing up without their parents, and it's not just because their parents left home, it's because they're always at work. We have a society full of people with low self-esteem, and why Instagram and social media blew up so big is because everybody's trying to take selfies and get status and recognition, and self-actualization, like the desire to become the best version of yourself and doing true inner work, never really happens because, well, I mean, we can't even get past our safety needs because we're always working, trying to make money. And what happens is these first like 3 to 4 needs are like really deficiency needs. So your motivation decreases as your needs are met. So for a lot of people, like once if you're always just focused on money and then you get a little bit of money, like if that's the only, like if you're not moving up, trying to take the next step in where you can, like once you meet your money needs, you were talking about like really leaning into family and stuff. Well, the motivation for getting more of these needs, if you don't continue to grow, it kind of decreases, whereas the motivation increases once these needs are met. Like once your self-esteem and your self-actualization needs are met, you actually, if you can focus on that on a regular basis, your motivation to continue to do that increases, right? So it's kind of like this, this weird, like, it's like a backwards, it's backwards in a sense. You can also see, this is, I think, a great graphic that shows you that, your psychological, your physiological and your safety needs are more of your surviving needs, right? Whereas these love, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization are more of your thriving needs. And the reason why, and maybe you guys can relate to this who are listening, and I know I can, right? Because I mean, I was in surviving mode for so long, because I could never get past those physiological and those safety needs. And if I go back to my addiction days, like back in pre 2008, like I wasn't even into safety. I was just into physiological, like shelter and food. You know what I mean? Like before I actually got clean and started putting my life back together. But for those of you who are wondering why it feels difficult to get out of just always chasing money, it's because we have, until we meet that need, we can't lean into some of these other needs because those are base needs. You know what I mean? The air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, that's a base need. Till that need is met, that's going to be the predominant need that you have to focus on in your life. And then once you do that, you move to safety, your personal security, your employment, resources, health, property. Like until those needs are met, that's going to be the primary need that you focus on. So it's going to be very difficult to move into focusing on family and in a sense of connection, and then into esteem and self-actualization. And that sucks, right? That sucks because I, you know, the people for me, when I was focused on just making money and but only my personal security and so forth, like of course I had low self-esteem because
Mhm.
I was never able to focus on meeting that need of
Yeah.
focusing on building my self-respect, my self-esteem, my status, my freedom, right? Isn't that interesting that freedom is connected to esteem? Like having freedom, the freedom to be able to do what you want and move about as you wish is connected to esteem versus being told to sit in a cubicle or report to a job and clock in, right? Of course, that's attached to esteem because that's not how we were designed to be. You know what I mean? We were designed to roam freely and have freedom. So, like, what I'm hearing from you is I'm hearing that now that you've met, like, a lot of like that need, basically that safety need, that financial need, that need to have safety within your property, within your career. You've met that need. Now you're moving into family, to intimacy, to self-esteem, right? To even self-awareness and self-actualization to where you're getting with your husband and you're looking to into the future. Does that resonate with you? And did that graphic of when we look at it from that perspective, does that make sense?
Like absolutely, because like, and let me know if you can hear me because I think my
Yeah.
headset just turned off. But like that chart is exactly like it's funny seeing that because that is exactly how it felt. It felt like it was constantly a struggle, and the order of like that pyramid is is almost like what my journey looked like. I mean, I'm definitely not anywhere near the top yet. I mean, I'm working my way up there, but when you're constantly like just wondering how you're going to pay your bills and what are you going to do, it's like it's impossible to even think about anything above that step. You just can't. Even if you tried for a minute, maybe you could distract yourself with something for short term, but in the back of, well, for me anyways, in the back of my mind, I'm constantly thinking of that. And it's kind of a funny process when you actually make it to a step you've never been to before, because it's almost like that way of thinking is a habit too, because when you know that you are, you're good with your safety is good, yeah, like your needs are met, and now you have, like you said, the freedom to think about your relationship and what you're going to do with your time. You have to almost train your mind to not think about those bottom two steps anymore, because you're so used to doing that it's really hard to not worry. And that's kind of that's one of my personal struggles, like if I'm being like really open, is like the worry of what's going to happen. I've always been that worrier, but I'm realizing now that it's a habit. So that whole path through up to the top of the triangle is really like a personal journey you have to take, because the smaller the step, the more difficult it becomes mentally. So the bottom two, I would say, are kind of like, it's almost like a physical struggle, because you're going out, you're doing the work to get past those steps, to actually step up to the next one. But once you get past like the personal, the safety and the physiological needs, the everything above that is all like a mental thing. So it's a shift. So it's an like this whole experience has been so amazing, because you learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of, and that things that you didn't think maybe you had the ability to do. Like maybe you thought you weren't really great at relationships, or maybe you thought you weren't great at interacting with people, or things like that. But really what it was is that you didn't have, like you said, the freedom to actually think about those things and give yourself permission to do that. So many great things come from and everyone says, oh, like it's just starting an online business, but it's so much more than that. It's fulfilling every part of your needs. Like it's fulfilling everything. It gives you the ability to be who I think you're actually meant to be, and you see your real personality and your strengths come out when you are able to actually just step up and meet those needs that you've been struggling with for so long. So it's just like, I'm beyond thankful for this everything that I've learned, and everything that all of the people that I've met and helped me along this path during this, last 11 months. It's things that I never ever thought I would ever be able to do. And it comes from hard work, because it isn't easy to step up past those last two steps. Like you just said, that's the most difficult thing to do. But if you're willing to really put in that work and dedicate an amount of time, and it's a short amount of time in the grand scheme of life, to really, like, if somebody told me it would take a year, you have to work your butt off for an entire year, but if you do that, you will have like what you always dreamed of. Like, would it be worth it? And of course, I don't know anyone who would say, oh, I know maybe there's people who would say no to that. But to me, like a year of an investment of working my time is so much, it's worth it. Like it's worth, like I can't even really explain it, but like I think you kind of see where I'm going with this. It's an amazing feeling.
Well, I mean, I see exactly where you're going, and I see where you are, and I see how your words match your actions. And to me, that's what's inspirational and what shows me, and I think everybody else, like what's possible with this. And so, like, I want to give everybody so much of you, but I also I want to encourage those of you who are, coming to the mastermind to get registered and come and, meet you in person and listen to you talk in person and like kind of sit next to us and be in the same room with us, and see that we're just, regular people who sometimes, it may seem like we're, I don't know. I don't know how it seems when you're looking at somebody online or whatever. I think we can tend to put people on a pedestal, but we're really just, I know, Stacy, when I meet you, you're just a regular person. I mean, just like me, just like anybody else. And I know that some of you who have mastermind tickets, making that decision to come is, it can be a scary one, like to come, like you might feel intimidated or something. And I just want to assure everyone that, this oftentimes when you get in the room with people who are succeeding at high levels, and you see that they're really no different than you, they're really, they just, it's in here. The only thing that's different is just in here. There's been some small tweaks. There's been some, maybe that person has worked hard enough to get through, and you're going to talk about your day-to-day kind of operations and process. You've used that to get past that kind of grind and need to meet your financial needs. So now you've grown in other areas. You've evolved now. You're starting to lean in. And when you bond more and spend more time with your family, you become a more well-rounded person. You have less guilt and shame because you're not, away from them so much. So you begin to speak with more confidence because you're taking care of the things you have your priorities in order. You know what I mean? And then you're building your self-esteem because you have freedom. And I'll tell you, if you folks want to have, just like in that Maslow's hierarchy pyramid, it said, if you want to have the ultimate confidence, if you want to be able to believe in yourself, and you look at, or you hear Stacy or some of these other folks talking and you think, well, how do they sound so sure of themselves? How do they sound so sure about what they're talking about? How do they speak with such conviction? Well, it's because they've gone to this place to where they've been able to access some levels of freedom. And with freedom comes just great, like it says, esteem, and you feel more powerful. You feel more like almost like your ancestral self. You know what I mean? Like you're not shackled by the cubicles, in the chains, in the punch clocks, in the bosses, in the jobs, in the traffic of today's society. And I'm telling you, that can bring a brother and a sister down, man. That can make us feel just like the world's on top of us. And when you start to push that off of you and gain back some of that freedom, you feel more like you're on top of the world, not egotistical, but just more empowered, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like like being able to, when that moment when you achieve the thing that you've kind of always been holding up there, right? Like you've been reaching for, like that moment, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's something small, like it can be like, it honestly can be anything. But when you get that, like that feeling, like the day that I walked out of my job, like I will never forget that. Like looking at that nuclear station behind me, and I'm driving away and knowing that I never have to go in there, wear work boots, put on a plastic suit, like never do any of that again, was so liberating. And I didn't even have anything. I wasn't making any, I didn't know what I was going to do tomorrow when I walked out of there, but just being able to do that is such a boost to your inner self, right? Knowing that you actually can make a decision for yourself. It's possible because people tell you your whole life it's not. They tell you have to follow the system, do all these things, get a job, work till you're however old, retire, and then when you retire you get to make choices for yourself, but not until then. So when you actually finally realize that you are quite capable of making decisions for yourself that are in the best interest of yourself, that feeling alone is bigger than anything else. And that is what's going to drive you forward. When you realize that you are capable of choosing for yourself and making decisions to choose what your future is going to look like, that is where your strength and where your drive comes from. And at least for me, that's what it is for me, knowing that I can provide for my family in the way that I want to, and I can create the future that I want to see for myself is what keeps me going and what really drives me, because a lot of the times you just don't realize that when you're just going through the motions of regular life and going to your job and getting up and driving in traffic, like you said, and sitting there and the same thing every single day that you didn't necessarily choose. You're just doing it because you have to. So, I mean, that's a lot of it is just coming to that realization. And I think when people finally succeed, it's when that clicks, when they finally realize I am capable of doing this and I can make decisions for myself and I can do what I want.
Yeah, it's not just an empowering moment. It's a way to literally take back your power, and move back into a sort of mindset of owning your life, and we all tie this back to the skills that we're developing here. I mean, it's all just about stepping out of stepping off of the road that others have paved for me, right? Which is basically a road from, high school to college. That's the next stop on the road to the factory, and the factory can be the nuclear plant. It can be the CPA office. It can be it could be the grocery store. It can be whatever other, job is there and along the way, there's exits, you know what I mean? There's exits off of that. And those exits are scary. Those exits, in many cases, they're mirages, right? Because there's people out there, sure, many of us have tried lots of different things, but when you sit on these shows every day and you tap into this community that we have here and you hear this day after day and you see people morning after morning and all of the stories of people who have essentially kind of taken that exit off that highway of, highway that somebody else paid for you, that systematic, I think maybe, yeah, I got to use the right words because for some people it's right. Like this is not right for everybody. You know what I mean?
No,
You gotta be
absolutely
clear
not.
about that. Like this is not right for everybody. But I mean, if you're sitting here and you're listening to Stacy and me this morning and you're shaking your head and you're going, this is my language. And I think for a lot of us, our whole lives, we felt like we were around people that didn't speak like the same language. Like they were talking literally a different, like we're sitting here going into an office with a boss and they're all kind of joking around the water cooler. And I'm sitting around going, how do I get out of here? You know what I mean? Like, how do I get out of here? I never want to be comfortable here. I never want to be comfortable in a 9-to-5. I never want to be comfortable and complacent because eventually I'm going to forget, I'm going to lose that drive and that motivation. I think that's what happens after decades and decades of being in that environment that sort of society has built for us. We stop dreaming. I remember my 5-year-old right now, she's like such a big dreamer. Like you can look at a child and naturally we are dreamers. Naturally we want to build. Naturally we want to be free. And I think just from over years of just this sort of societal, kind of road to, a prison without walls.
Yeah.
We kind of lose that dreamer inside of us. And when we get that back or we get around people who are talking the language that we're talking, if this is getting fired up in you, then you're probably meant to be here. You're probably meant to hear this message. So don't stop until you fulfill those needs at the bottom. so you can get into those family needs, so you can get into those self-esteem needs, so you can begin to not just benefit from the physical uh, rewards of this, like the money in the house, but until you can, as you said, experience some of that esteem growth, right? Some of that, the freedom that is, for me, I think, been one of my most empowering, experiences that I've ever had. Is just, as a matter of fact, I was talking with my wife the other day, and we're always so aware of any situation that I might get into, to where I feel like I'm like sort of being told what to do. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not that I'm not able to follow rules, and not that I'm not able to be a good citizen, because I can follow, society's, like, for example, like, over the last couple of years, like I've gone along with doing what I can to keep people safe, right? I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about, like, on a day-to-day basis, like with work and stuff like that. Like I want to feel free. I want to be able to be creative. I want to be able to make my own hours. And even if it's a struggle, focusing and being committed and being disciplined at the beginning, like, I want to have a chance to be able to develop those skills. And for me, it took a little bit longer to develop, like, structure, and, like, I needed my wife's help, honestly, because she's really structured and organized. But I want to be the one who has a chance to develop that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be told you have to be here at 9 and you're off at 5. Like, I don't want to be told that. I want to develop that structure and that plan. If I'm going to work out and I'm going to eat better, like, I want to develop that. I want to have a shot to design that lifestyle, versus, having somebody tell me when to eat or when to work out, and the only,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that
I can relate
freedom
to
is
that
super
totally.
empowering for me, and it
Oh,
makes
yeah.
me feel, it
Mhm.
adds so much to my self-esteem. So
Mhm.
yeah, this
Yeah,
is
it's almost like it gets to the point where, yeah, it's like it gets uncomfortable when you've been, it gets uncomfortable when you almost try to fit yourself back into that box again. You don't fit anymore. You just don't fit. And that's the easiest way I can explain it is just,
Right.
you don't fit. So it's just not even worth it to try to go down that path, because, I know who I am now and I know what I'm capable of. So I would never, like, I would never go back. There's no way I couldn't. I'm not that same person.
Well, listen, I could obviously talk with you for hours about this stuff, because it's just so interesting. I think there's levels to this, right? I mean, and I'm glad. I think one of the really cool things that we do around here is we talk about the different levels, not just not we're teaching people how to fish versus just, like, giving them fish. I think
Right.
that's why this is. I think that's my hunch. This is my guess why we have a lot of successful people who are growing, who are learning, who are earning in at lots of different levels and lots of different ways, is because we're focused not just on the mechanics, but also on the dynamics. And that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot at the mastermind coming up, is going to be a lot of these dynamic pieces. I'm going to bust out some of my trainings that I haven't done before, that I've been developing sort of behind the scenes, and go over some of the concepts that have helped me to grow to these next levels and achieve things that I wouldn't have ever guessed were possible. So again, I could talk with you and about this for a long time, but I'm going to let you go, because we have to leave a little to be desired for those of you
Of
who are
course.
coming to
Yeah.
the mastermind.
Mhm.
And I'm just, Stacy, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And thanks for
Me
your
too.
time today. And just stay legendary and keep rocking. Okay.
All right. Thanks. Can't wait to see you guys in person.
All right. See you later. All right, you can go and follow Stacy at the link here that I'm showing on the screen, and she is a force of nature, a force that, yeah, I mean, she's awesome. She really is, and it's so cool to see, to have these conversations, kind of behind the scenes with all these great entrepreneurs and marketers in our community, because it's one thing to watch them do their thing, and it's another thing to hear the journey behind their business, and how they got to where they're at, and kind of what it's like. And it's really cool. Like, as you can see, like, it's really cool. Like, I get so fired up to hear these stories of that kind of startup entrepreneur who just 11 months ago got started, so and now is rocking it. So Go get registered. If you have a mastermind ticket, we'll see you in Orlando. I'm actually right around the corner from where we're going to be at, just right here this weekend. So it's awesome here. It's going to be a great event. There's going to obviously the house, the surroundings, the environment's going to be great, but the best is the people who are going to be there. You will feel safe. You will feel connected. You will feel a part of, because that's the vibe that we have within our community and within our family. And so come with an open heart and with an open mind. Get registered today while spots are still available. You have to have a mastermind ticket. And yeah, we'll see you there, and we'll see you on Monday. Peace out. Get out of here. Love you all. Bye-bye.
It's really confirmed in me the fact that I really can do it. I have to take action, but I am perfectly able to do it. There's so many paths. There's no one right way, which I love that. And you be yourself, and you're going to attract people who are like you.
It was awesome, and I'm not just saying that to pump up Dave. It was awesome. It was worth way more than I spent. Familyness and the friendliness and the be able to talk to folks that's running Legendary Marketing, and they were just down to earth and would do everything on the planet to help me and everybody that was here. I mean, it was priceless.
This Legendary system, the way it's set up, it feels more genuine. It's not like hype. It's work that you're going to do, and we're here to help you. It's not like, hey, you're going to get rich next week, you know? And I get that, and it's like, wow, man, they're being really honest with me.
Telling, and also you taught us very well that we want to give value, you know? It's not about what we can make. That is definitely not the first priority. The first priority is to give value to other people.
You can always hold yourself back because of fear. Eventually you're just gonna regret not doing something. And for me, doing this was, you know, my leap of faith. It was like going in and go and do it and don't look back.
This whole journey of from click to sitting here in Florida to pretty nice pad. If you'd asked me 6 months prior, I would have been like, no. No, that's not me. That's not my lifestyle. You know, that's not what I do. I'm the go-to guy. I'm dependable, but I'm not going to go outside my comfort zone because I'm so strong at these things. Why would I need to? And that's the thing. I needed to.
Action-packed. The first day was very content-driven. It was more strategy and stuff like that, and then the second day was more mindset, motivation, and a lot of stories being shared. But I love the fact that people were actually vulnerable, sharing their stories, sharing their experiences, and stuff like that.
Before I came to Mastermind, 5 out of 10, and by now it's like I'm 10 out of 10, well equipped to go forward and be me than I used to be 3 days ago.
But every time I talk to somebody, I get a different perspective on advertising, something I hadn't noticed, or a new way to advertise, or a new site to use to help me in my advertising.
I got so much value from so many people, let alone the coaches. The coaches were woo, but just even the people who are on this journey. And look at the value that I'm getting from you. Let's say if there was no coaches, the people who are here for the first time, just spending time with them, learning from them, learning their stories and how determined and motivated they are. Oh my God.
When I just got to talking to some of the people that was here, you know what I'm saying, and they kind of was throwing ideas around for me, you know what I'm saying, and that's where it comes to the masterminds, you know what I'm saying, that's what the big benefit is, coming to masterminds, you know what I'm saying, you can pick up ideas from different people, and I just would say, well, that's what I'm good at, so I ran with it.
I've got accountability partners that I've met through, you know, like the leadership program, and I'm on Zoom calls several times a week with people. So I am in constant touch with people from Legendary, and we help each other out.
It's really hard to learn all this information on your own, and I've tried to learn things on my own, you know, doing YouTube videos and Udemy courses and things, you know, like paying for one little program here, one little program there, and then you might only be taught about one particular opportunity, you know, or only taught a portion of the information because the person is pitching a course that they want you to enroll in. So this gives you like a big picture overview of so many different options that you could do in the online space.